Hi, my name is Cindy Rang with the Fabric Patch in Ephrata, Washington. You can find us at fabricpatch.net, and we are working on the Westport block of the month, and today we're going to do block number 6. Alright, so as usual, this is our Westport block of the month, and you should have the pattern. If you don't have the pattern and now you've decided you want to join us, we do have this on our website. I think we also have a few kits left. We have the kits in the same colorway that she suggested. We have the warm colorway or the cool colorway. Wait, I have that backwards. The cool colorway or the warm colorway in either twins or kings. Or, of course, in the pattern, she gives you this little fabric selection sheet, and you can just pull things out of your stash, and that works really well, too. And if I didn't mention, if you need a downloadable pattern, if you're from somewhere else, you might want to go to her website for that, and it's from Whirligig Designs. All right, so we did it out of order. Last class we did block number 11 and block number 12, so I hope that wasn't too confusing, but the reason that we did that, those are the setting blocks, and there's quite a few to make. So our setting blocks are right here. I think we had 10 of these to make, and then I think we had maybe 8 of the other outside ones to do. And the reason we did that is sometimes you guys sew a little bit faster than we put the videos out, because there's only a couple of blocks to make every 2 weeks. And so if you have a little bit of extra time, you can be working on these setting blocks so that when we're finally done with all of the blocks, you can get your quilt together fairly quickly. All right, so the block that we're making this time is block number 6, which happens to be right here behind me. This is a lovely block, and while Brianna shows you up close, I just want to show you a couple things about this block. One thing I want to show you is that this little unit right here is technically called a cat's cradle block. So this is a standard unit. You can make a full-size cat's cradle block, or what's kind of fun about them is that you'll see lots of traditional blocks that have these, and they put together in all sorts of different ways. So here's a cat's cradle block, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And then here's just a little different block, and then there's just a couple of little squares. So we're going to show you how to put that whole thing together. There is a cat's cradle ruler, but I just didn't want to make it super crazy. We might do another video about that and show you another time on another quilt, but if you happen to have the cat's cradle ruler, it'll show you a whole different way to put this block together. But we're going to do it the way that she's telling you to do it in your pattern. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our fabric. Okay, this is our block number 6, and again, she does give you sort of a nice little tool so that if you're selecting things from your stash and you sort of want to know where you're using mediums or darks or whatever, she tells you exactly which fabrics to cut. This is also nice because if you have a kit from us, you can match everything up to know exactly what you're cutting. And when you look at the pattern, she tells you all of the cutting. We are not going to go through all of the cutting with the 45-degree angles. We've done that on a couple of previous blocks, and if this is your first one with us, go back and as you catch up to cut your triangles, we'll show you how to cut that. So the cutting for this, for many of the next blocks, are going to be very, very similar in terms of cutting these half square triangle units. So what she's telling you is on your fabric number 1, which is your background, she's going to have you cut 4 pieces. She's going to have you cut these background squares, these 3.5-inch half square triangle blocks, and then these 1.5-inch half square triangle blocks. The last thing she's going to have you cut, and you'll see I didn't do it, are those little rectangles. If you look at the pattern, she has you do this little setting block after you've made it, but my suggestion from the very beginning was to just hold off, make that a tiny bit bigger, just so that if you need to have a little bit of trimming space, you'd be able to do that. So I've been making mine just a smidge bigger so that I have that little insurance in case my block came out too small. All right, so that's our background cuts, and then the next thing is out of fabric number, what she calls fabric number 6. We have some more of those half square triangle blocks, Out of fabric number 8, we have some of the 3.5 inch half square triangle blocks, and then finally out of fabric number 8, which is a nice little dark piece, we just have a couple of little squares to make. So this is all of our cutting. All of our cutting is aside, and now it's time to go ahead and start piecing. So when we start piecing, what I would start with is exactly what she's starting with, which is your 8 half square triangles. So you're going to take 8 of these, this just like we've done in previous blocks. Line these up together. Everything is going to line up just right. I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew my 1/4 inch seam allowance, press these open. I'm going to go ahead and do 8 of these and I'm going to be right back. Alright, just a little reminder about when you're pressing that you want to make sure that you've rocked the whole edge of your iron all the way over so that your seam is absolutely flat. And by flat I mean that you don't have anything hidden in there that's going to make your block a different size. The other thing you're going to want to do is take your little dog ears and nip those off. The reason you want to nip those off, and we're going to come over here, is because you don't want any of that to end up in your seam allowance. So just cut those off however you'd like to. Your next step is going to be to lay this out, and then you have these other pieces, and you're going to put one here and one here. Now the way to do that is to start at the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this over. I'm going to sew 1/4 inch here and do that on all of my blocks. Press it open, and then once I've pressed it open, I'm going to lay this one down on this edge, sew that, and press that open. I'll come back and show you after this step, and then we'll do the last step. Okay, it looks like this, and I'm actually going to go ahead and press it, and after I've pressed it, I'm going to sew that one there. Okay, it looks like this, and I'm going to end up pressing this open, and what I want you to notice is that you've got a couple of things. You've got a 1/4 inch seam allowance available right here, a 1/4 inch right there, and you have a 1/4 inch right there. I'm going to press that whole thing, and then half of them will end up, I just have to hold that, half of them we're going to put this piece on, and when we sew that, I would flip that over so that I can see that as I'm sewing my 1/4 inch seam allowance, you can see right where you're going to be sewing. From that point right through that X, right to that point. I'm going to do half with this, and the other half I'm going to use this one so that I end up with my blocks. I'll show you this before we press it, but I'm going to do some sewing and I'll be right back. Okay, really quick, I just want to remind you that after you've sewn these on and pressed those, you do want to, just like before, you want to go ahead and cut those little dog ears off. And again, the main reason for that is you don't need all of that bulk in that seam allowance. It's just not necessary. All right, so I'm going to continue piecing, and again, half of them will have this, and half of them will have this. Okay, so these again are the cat's cradle blocks. So we've made 2 with the background as the half square triangle and 4 with this green, or the color that we used, and then you have your other 2 squares. And then the last thing to mention is that right in the center you have a little 4 patch that looks like this. So all you're going to do is sew this 4 patch together, press that, and then you're just going to build the block the way that she shows you to build the block. And let's just look up here again. These are the colors that are in your kit, if that's what you're using, and so you'll see that here's that little center block, and then here's your 9 patch. So here's your dark cat's cradle blocks. Here's your light cat's cradle blocks, and here's the 2 in the corner. Alright, so you're going to make 2 of these if you're doing the twin size, and you'll make 3 if you're doing the king size. That's the end of block number 6, and our next one up is block number 7. Thank you for watching our video. We invite you to leave a comment, hit the like button, or better yet, subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. You can also visit our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Pinterest pages, or find all of those things and our online store at fabricpatch.net.